They are the latest snapshots of the challenges from an influx of migrants in this country. Violence inside the same hotel where police say a 14-year-old was raped. El Paso's Gateway Hotel forced to shut down after a lawsuit. The county attorney's office says it was allowing illegal activity, including consuming drugs and gang activity, from members of Tren De Aragua.
What started as a gang of Venezuelan migrants has now evolved into a potent transnational crime force. Tren De Aragua, now linked to more than 100 police investigations across the country, and their influence is growing.
From armed robbery to looting of high-end stores, authorities began tracking the Tren De Aragua gang operations in New York City, where gang members have been involved in robberies and violent clashes with law enforcement, including this brutal attack on NYPD officers in January. At least 2 of the 14 suspects have been linked to the gang. Another shocking incident that made national headlines, the murder of nursing student Lincoln Riley. Authorities believe the suspects, 2 brothers identified as Diego and Jose Ibarra, have ties to the Tren De Aragua gang. More recently, 2 major incidents in Colorado also involving the Tren De Aragua gang in Aurora. Gang members have been linked to violent incidents at several apartment complexes. As you can see, the alleged gang members carrying assault rifles. Local police have responded to numerous cases where residents were victims of armed robberies and home invasions. And in Denver, thieves suspected to be linked to the Tren De Aragua gang pulled off a high-profile jewelry heist, stealing over $100,000 worth of merchandise. In the video, the robbers are seen pulling out guns, pushing open an office door, and pistol whipping 2 women who fall onto the floor. In El Paso, Texas, authorities uncovered a human smuggling operation where victims were held against their will. The gang is reportedly using these hotels as temporary holding centers before moving victims across state.
Hello everyone, does anybody know where I can dump the Venezuelan citizenship? No, seriously, this is embarrassing, but I'm so glad that I'm an American citizen. Whew. Ready? I'm gonna do it again because I know that some liberal lunatics are going to get offended. I'm so glad that I am now an American citizen. Whew. Dodged a major bullet. Kamala Harris's violent cockroaches are loose in America and ready to take action. In fact, it's been reported that they have been given the green light to open fire on police officers. So imagine, where does that leave you guys? But figures, right? This is what happens when you give them everything for free. Free hotel accommodations, free meals, and free easy access into the country by just seeking asylum.
Did you vote? Are you gonna vote? Oh, will you ask people that you know to vote, please? And will you ask them to vote for me? Thank you.
Remember, Kamala Harris was the border czar, so no wonder why we have this utter nightmare on our hands. These are cold-blooded killers, and I have the updated list of where these violent rodents have been encountered. So pay attention in case you hear your city and state. So TDA members operate from Chihuahua, Mexico. From there, they move gang members, drugs, and people across the US border. They have been encountered in El Paso, Texas, Denver, Colorado, Chicago, New York City, the state of New Jersey, Utah County, Utah, Canyon County, Idaho, Wisconsin, and Florida. What a disgrace. So let me know if you live in any of these cities and states in the comment section below. And keep an eye out because your government hates you, unfortunately. On the other hand, we have some good and breaking news. Texas Governor Greg Abbott designated the TDA gang as a terrorist organization. He's trying his best to protect his beautiful state of Texas, and it will most likely protect the entire country, to be honest with you. Therefore, let's get to the details of this major announcement that everyone in America should be aware of. And that being said, let's get started.
The State Department on Thursday offered a $12 million reward for information leading to the capture of 3 leaders of the Venezuela-based Tren De Aragua gang. Simultaneously, the Treasury Department designated Tren De Aragua as a transnational criminal organization, a move that allowed the federal government to seize the gang's assets in the U.S. According to our Border Report web team, Tren De Aragua members posing as legitimate asylum seekers have been apprehended after committing criminal acts in this country. Congressman Tony Gonzalez calls it an important designation.
For years now, I have seen some of these bad actors kind of mingle in with people that are seeking a better life, and some of them should not be in our community at all. And they're a danger. And they're a danger to El Paso. They're a danger to Texas. They're a danger to America. Some of these, they're really bad people, and we got to get ahead of it.
How pathetic, right? So let me get this straight. We fund the federal government, and in return, they let these violent criminals into the country. When these criminals start to kill people, then the federal government offers millions of taxpayer dollars to capture them. Wow. Luckily for us, we have Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who is not only fighting the TDA gang, but he's also fighting the Biden and Harris administration.
Hi, my name is Sally Hartman. I'm a volunteer with the Center for Worker Justice. Okay. I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. Thank you.
So there you go, America. If Kamala Harris wins, she will let all of the violent criminals out on day one. Anyway, without any further interruptions, let's get to the highlights of Texas Governor Greg Abbott's major announcement.
Good morning. I want to thank everybody for being with us here today for a very important announcement. Also want to thank the participants with me at the table. To my right, we have the Texas Border Czar, Mike Banks. To my left is the director of the Texas Department of Public Safety, Steve McCraw. And we also have with us Chris Cabrera, the vice president for the National Border Patrol Council. We're here today to talk about a dangerous, maybe even a deadly threat facing both our state as well as our country. It's the recent entry and expansion of the vicious Venezuelan gang known as Tren De Aragua, also known as TDA. Officials are concerned about what is going on with TDA. Its recent expansion and entry of this gang could destabilize public safety in the United States as well as in the state of Texas. For us, and law enforcement across the state, our top priority is the security and the safety of our fellow Texans. This is a nonpartisan, bipartisan issue that everybody agrees upon, that we need to aggressively address this threatening challenge. TDA is characterized as MS-13 on steroids. TDA is the largest criminal organization in Venezuela. It started as a prison gang in the state of Aragua, Venezuela, and has now expanded to a transnational criminal organization. Now they are dominating the international flow of migrants from South America through Mexico into the United States. TDA is notorious for their brutal violence and murder, and their kidnapping, extortion, bribery, and trafficking of drugs, weapons, and even humans. They've been linked to more than 100 law enforcement investigations across the country. They were involved in the brutal attack and assault upon New York Police Department law enforcement officers. Reports have also linked TDA to the murder of Lincoln Riley. Intelligence reports show TDA has been given the green light to shoot law enforcement officers in the United States. In other countries infiltrated by TDA, history has shown they first flood the countries with military-age Venezuelan men. Next, they begin to establish a base of operations. Finally, TDA begins a spree of violent and bloody criminal activity. We've now seen the beginnings of these operations in the state of Texas, where we have identified either known or suspected TDA activity in the state of Texas. Since 2021, more than 3,000 illegal immigrants from Venezuela have been arrested in Texas, and another more than 200 are wanted. There is currently no TDA database to be able to verify if these arrests are of TDA members or non-TDA members. So, what the Texas Department of Public Safety is working on, as well as other law enforcement, they're working to create a database from scratch. They're doing that by watching for suspected TDA activity that matches the known methods of operation of confirmed TDA activity in other countries. We will build that database by looking at common traits shared by TDA. They include tattoos, scars, marks, types of crime, methods of operation. Now, importantly, today, I'm announcing what Texas is doing to stop the spread of TDA in our state. I ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to launch a statewide operation directly targeting TDA to deter and to disrupt their criminal operations in Texas. When I became governor of Texas, there was one anti-gang center to crack down on gang activity in our state. Today, there are now 9 anti-gang centers across the state in Dallas-Fort Worth, El Paso, Houston, Laredo, Lubbock, McAllen, San Antonio, Tyler, and Waco. Also, I signed laws that provide more than $100 million to support these anti-gang centers over just the next 2 years. But to more directly target TDA, I directed DPS to elevate TDA to a Tier 1 gang, the worst of the worst, ensuring that DPS deploys the resources that are needed to corral this growing menace. Also today, I am officially declaring TDA a foreign terrorist organization. We will bring the full weight of the government against the TDA. By declaring TDA a foreign terrorist organization, Texas will use the courts to halt their operations, use civil asset forfeiture to take their property, use enhanced criminal penalties to keep them in jail behind bars for longer periods of time. At this time, I'm going to sign that proclamation. Texas is aggressively going after these foreign terrorist organizations of TDA. Texas will also use a newly passed law in our state to impose a mandatory minimum of at least 10 years behind bars against TDA gang members who smuggle people into Texas. Also, I directed the DPS to create a new TDA strike team made of highway patrol officers, DPS special agents, Texas Rangers, SWAT teams, including aircraft, helicopters, and drones, K-9 teams, and intelligence units. These strike teams will collaborate with Texas Anti-Gang Center law enforcement officers to surge resources to areas where known or suspected TDA activity is taking place. Together, they will seek to identify and arrest TDA gang members. We are not going to allow them to use Texas as a base of operations to terrorize our citizens. Texas is a law and order state, and I will ensure that law enforcement has every tool they need to keep our community safe. At this time, I will turn it over to Director McCraw of the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Governor, thank you. Tren De Aragua, TDA, gangsters are like cockroaches. They multiply quickly. Small intrusions into communities become infestations if not aggressively pursued. These Venezuelan thugs, as the governor noted, are highly combative. They're violent. They're certainly adaptable. And they always are involved in situations, that criminal activities that first start with human smuggling. Then not just human smuggling, but human smuggling of migrants, and whether it's in South America or Central America, and certainly on the Texas border. They are involved in the extortion, kidnappings, rape, assaults, and sex trafficking of migrants. Once in place, they expand their criminal operations. We've seen it around the state. Try to get a foothold, and when we talk about expanding their criminal operations, they're talking about pushing out other criminal gangs operating in that area. We're requesting that our federal partners provide us information on the whereabouts of these Venezuelan migrants. That's very important because, unfortunately, you're either a TDA member or a victim of TDA. This information would be extremely helpful in identifying additional TDA members and their victims. I mean, some people find it harsh using the term, infestation and cockroaches and things like that. All you have to do is interview or spend some time with some victims, some migrant victims that are here in this country. You'll understand that the governor has not overstated the issue. In fact, he's well stated the issue. And Texas is not going to allow any part of this state to be infested with that type of disease.
Now, Chris Cabrera with the National Border Patrol Council.
Thank you, Governor. With this gang, it's not, they're not like traditional like MS-13s where you can see them coming a mile away with the crazy tattoos they have all over their faces. These guys fly under the radar. As a federal agent, we have no way of vetting these people other than the honor system. If they tell us they're from so-and-so and this is their name, we can't check against Venezuela's database. They're not going to give us access to it, so we have to let them go. Unfortunately, we do let them go. In the off chance we're going to deport them, Venezuela decides they're not going to take them back. So our government on the federal level is kind of weak-minded, and so we just go ahead and, okay, well, you go ahead and stay here then. And it's unfortunate what we're seeing. It is an infestation. It's taking hold. Not just in Colorado or New York. It's up in Michigan, Florida, Texas, you name it. It's spreading. And what people fail to realize is working on the border, we see everything come through, but it doesn't affect us as much as it affects the rest of the United States, especially Houston. Everything that comes through our area just passes through and it ends up as your problem or a problem somewhere up north. And if people don't wake up and see it for what it is, we're going to be in a lot of trouble in this country.
Thank you. Now the Texas borders are Mike Banks.
Good afternoon. I want to be very clear that a TDA problem in Texas and the rest of the United States is a direct result of open border policies. The Biden-Harris administration has sent out an all call to the world that you can cross this border without any consequences. Think about it for a moment. There are 195 known countries in this world, and in the last 3+ years, we've had 169 of those countries cross illegally into this country. Then you talk about Venezuela, that being one of those countries where it is a known fact that the Venezuelan government has released prisoners with one condition: you leave Venezuela and don't come back. Well, then they answer the all call from this administration. They show up here. So there's no surprise that we have a criminal illegal gang problem in the United States. And thankfully, we're addressing that. Talk about vetting. You get the federal government will tell you that Biden, Harris, and Secretary Mayorkas will tell you that they're vetting everyone they're releasing. That is an absolute lie, because they cannot vet them against their criminal history in Venezuela, because Venezuela refuses to share that information with us, because it would defeat the very purpose of releasing them to go into another country if they were going to be held because of that criminal history. So, you know, Governor Abbott has been at the forefront of this open border crisis. This is nothing that we haven't been talking about since OLS started back in March. We knew that these are the types of things that are going to happen when you have an open border and you allow everyone in the country without proper vetting. You know, thankfully, we've had a strong legislature that has given us many of the laws that the governor's talked about here today that we're using to go after TDA. And so I want to thank the legislature, and then also want to thank the governor for having the moral courage to continue fighting this fight and doing everything we can to protect Texas and the rest of the United States. And we're not going to stop until Biden-Harris administration steps up and honors their oath of office, which is to protect America and Americans first. Thank you.
Thank you. There is no database. Like if Border Patrol, you know, arrest or encounters a person from Venezuela, they may think or suspect that could be a TDA member, but there's no database to be able to determine that and confirm that. Part of this effort now, because of the increased number of military-aged men from Venezuela crossing our border who seem to have all the characteristics of a TDA member, we are going about the process of establishing that database so we can track them, follow them, and see what their modus of operation is, so that hopefully they will lead to documentation of verified TDA members that also can lead to arrests and putting them behind bars.
What we've seen is TDA members, what they'll do is they'll infiltrate areas by following migrants that they exploited at the border, they continue to exploit, including the sex trafficking of children. That's where it starts with. Okay, then they quickly expand and multiply. At that point in time is when they engage in other criminal activities, and there is no, I've said opportunistic before, there is no limit to what those criminal activities are. It's just all about profit in that regard. And once they have and sell and fully established in that regard, they threaten the other criminal gangs and more victims. And what do TDA members look like? Well, they look like Americans, is what they look like, plain and simple. So we focus on the criminal activity. And if you're a Venezuelan national, been released, come here illegally, and you come between the ports of entry, you've been apprehended by Border Patrol and released into the United States because there's no proper way of vetting them, at that point in time, okay, it depends on whether they're a migrant, okay, a victim, an associate, or a TDA member. They don't have a lot of rival gangs in Venezuela like the U.S. We're not talking about the Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle, so forth and so on. They basically have monopolized, okay, crime in Venezuela and exported it to Chile, Peru, and Colombia. And about 2018 is when they became transnational, and the federal government has designated them as certainly a transnational criminal organization. So they understand the threat the federal government does. Unfortunately, we're not getting much help if you're going to allow them into the country.
We know that if we don't stop this now, it could spread rapidly across our state, endangering people across our state. We want to get ahead of that process and cut this off right now and make sure TDA understands when they come to the state of Texas, they're going to face the heavy hand of law enforcement with a robust, literally hundreds, if you count all the local law enforcement, thousands of law enforcement officers who are focused on TDA. They have a target on their back, and we're going after them. We have one goal, and that is to arrest them and make them understand that Texas is the wrong state for them to be trying to do business in.
Wow, what can I tell you guys? I hope that Governor Greg Abbott runs for president at some point in the future. We need that type of leadership. Now, picture the amount of taxpayer dollars being spent on this specific task force. And it's all because of the Biden-Harris open border policy. It's unfortunate, but extremely needed at the moment. Moreover, if President Trump wins the election, and he teams up with the likes of Governor Greg Abbott and Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis, I strongly believe that TDA will be eradicated from the United States. Well, guys, those are all the updates I got for you today. Remember, the shoutouts for my amazing supporters and members are down below. Smash the like button, subscribe, and share this video with at least one person. It helps the algorithm tremendously. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time.